Matthew.
Corey.
What's happening, brother?
Not a lot in my neck of the woods, pal. It's a very COVID-filled area, and I don't know what it's like over there. I love the beautiful design you got there in the background there with
Thanks,
the
man.
carpet and everything. Is that designed anything in particular, or?
This is the original. I don't know about the original. This is one of the original logos for the podcast. So it was on like iTunes and Spreaker and all that stuff. When you saw the graphic for the podcast, it was always this. And I recently changed it. I recently updated it. But then my best friend who did commentary on the Wicked Hanuman show, Rick Feinberg.
Okay. Yeah.
He got me this printed on a tapestry for my birthday, like a couple years ago. So it's the background of my videos now.
Fantastic. The tie-dye goes really well with the design in the background.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
It's going to be visually appealing in these videos, you know.
Thanks, man. Thank you. So you reached out to me in finding a very obscure indie promotion from 13 years ago. And you said, what can you tell me about this? And I said, I could probably tell you more than you care to even know.
Oh, good.
But I said, we'll go over the whole thing. And the fact that you brought notes, I'm down for it. So I said, let's make this into an episode of my podcast, Evolving with Corey Castle. And we'll do a whole Wicked Hanuman review. And I'm going to be honest, straight up front. You're going to get a lot of honesty from me. But this is going to wind up being that I haven't really recently watched the show back. But I started to watch my match from that show today. And I have to say, I was embarrassed and I turned it off. I did not like it. And I have to say, I should have changed my name. I should have done something else. I was only 5 years in. Not very good. It was very, very bad. And hold that performance up against any performance nowadays of mine, and it'll be completely different. But cripes, that was bad. And I remember, considering that I'm talking to Botchamania guy, I am the table. There was some pretty bad non-table breaks on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. At one point, Derek Sabato on commentary does say, "Wow, these tables come from Japan." So it's nice. It'll be very interesting to listen to how you react to your own self from years and years ago now, right, and how you were back then. Because it's interesting you going, "Oh, I was terrible back then," but at the same time, I don't think I could look at my stuff I did when I was 5 years into it either. But at the same time, yeah, you are technically a rookie at that point, right? Right. Obviously, even though you're on shows, you're on CCW, teaming with Niles Young and everything else. Right. I guess you are still doing it as you go, and you're faking it until you make it, as they say.
And at the time, I have to say, and I watched it back with my trainers, Eddie Valentine and John Dahmer, VD. Yeah. They trained me, and they were like, "Wow, yeah, all we can say is you were not prepared for that match." But I have to say, okay. So at the time, this is 2007, right?
It is.
So
yes.
At the time, CZW had forced me out, meaning John Zandig did not. John Zandig pulled me aside at a show, and he screamed in front of me. He screamed at me in front of everybody, and he said, "You are the goofiest fucking asshole I've ever met in my entire life." I was not picking up the business very well, but then not being supported in the fact that this is a learning process. It's not something you just pick it up. But yeah, I was still pretty new and my confidence was really bad. I was not a very athletic boy. I did not I wore big thick glasses and was not an athlete in school. There's very clearly something that it took a really long time for me to pick up. So I have to say that to a lot of guys who are younger than me that come along. I'm like, wow, man, you're way further along than I was this far into the business.
Right, because I mean that's where I know you from. I mean, I think we've spoken a few times on Twitter, and it's very weird to me, by the way. I'll get this out of the way because you've obviously been very polite because you're the professional podcaster. I'm just a hack behind a laptop. It is weird to me in a cool way that nowadays I have managed to speak to a bunch of people who I knew, who I watched growing up from CZW, you know. And I was a kid who was a CZW fan. I was like, yeah, CZW, fuck you, lay in the law once again, you know, and all this. Even when people going, have you tried watching PWG, Ring of Honor? I'm like, lay in the law once again, you know. And I was that kid. It took a while for me to realize, it's got off the rails a bit here, because in fairness, there's some really good bits of CZW, really good runs that I'll defend, and there's periods when I go, oh, this is just shit. But I think it also helped that I was part of the CZW fans, Zandig fans thing at that point. So I think if you're a wrestling fan, I'm getting to a point, don't worry. If you, I can see your hands, I'm ignoring you. I'm more motivated to be into a product if I have people to discuss and talk about it. So that's why I was in it for so long.
Yeah, the CZW fans message board was a whole other community. Like that was a whole other, that took a life of its own at the time. And I think I was reading that mixed with me reading like DOI message boards and kind of being like a big wrestling nerd, and then being like, oh, I'm one of the guys because I had like an incredibly large amount of unearned confidence. Arrogance, I don't even want to say it's confidence, because I wasn't confident. I just had an ego, and it was my ego because like I was in CZW and that was the place to be. Like CZW was for my era like the next placeholder for what ECW was. So I thought, well, I'm breaking into the company, and I'm like, this is where I start. So 7 years before the Wicked Hanuman show, I started training at CZW. I was 15 years old. You know what I mean? So it was like, this place wasn't a huge place yet. And then I got to be with it while it became a bigger thing. And then I made my debut, and then I was on TV. So when I'm like, I'm part of the thing that's lighting the world on fire, by proxy, I'm lighting the world on fire. However, I was not a contributing factor to the world being set ablaze.
Right. I mean, I think that's one thing I could say about you from the run. And again, I'm not having encyclopedic knowledge of every match that you had during that run.
But you know what?
There were those people.
I'm a little disappointed that you don't. Just kidding. I'm kidding. No, well, I would be disappointed if you did. I would be very disappointed. I'd say you need a better life.
Thank God you had a sense of humor. It's been an awkward fucking hour and a bit. But there was that group of people that John Dahmer, as you said, of VD, would bring in, and more or less, you, Jude, Corey Castle, Niles Young, Mary Derek Frazier, and stuff like that. And Dahmer would bring in, and he'd have these matches where he'd beat the fuck out of you. Right. And that seemed to be the way that, you guys would get some in-ring training and everything else like that. And those diehard Philly mutants would be like, yeah. But the thing I got from you, as well as Niles Young, I think it worked well that you guys got teamed up. You weren't necessarily, experienced or anything else like that, but you did seem to have a shitload of confidence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a show. You know what I mean? It was a show. I can't speak for Jeff. I don't know for sure, because he might have had more. But I just was faking it. You know what I mean? I was not a very confident boy, and I think a lot of that came from Eddie too. From Eddie Valentine, was like when he was training us, he was saying like, you know why you're here? And this is something I tell to young kids all the time when I'm trying to walk them through like seminars or training with them, and I'm like, the reason you're here is because you have a calling to this business. Not a lot of these other people who are around this business or follow it know what it's like to get in this ring, to touch these mats, to touch these ropes. You're part of a very exclusive elite group of people. Like, now you're exclusive. We're exclusively inside the business, and the reason we're here is because we believe we belong here. So act accordingly. Act like you actually believe that you belong here. And like, it took me a while to hear that the correct way. So like, when you said it, the confidence, sure, the confidence probably came from that, because especially with Eddie or Dahmer, And I mean, to an extent, a lot of other people who were around. I can't just say Eddie or Dahmer, but like if you weren't acting accordingly, you'd get hurt for it. You know what I mean? Like you'd get like pointed in the right direction, and it's cool to see that wasn't abuse. Those men are my friends. Like now, as an adult and as a man, I realized those were role models for me, and taught me the structure of how to be. All right, so we'll go on to your notes, Maffew. I want to see what I want to.
It's cool.
See what you wrote.
Dude, don't worry about it. It's it's like jazz. We'll just go as we flow. I mean, it's
right.
Two guys talk who've never talked before, so it's
right,
like,
yeah.
We're not going to be like fucking Brian Alvarez. But what I've got for Wicked Hanuman, March 24th, 2007, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Wicked Hanuman is the name of the show. Now, you said before that you were good friends with the person who ran this. So was that Rick Feinberg running it? Or
No.
Oh, okay. It's just making sure that.
No.
You have many good friends.
Yes, dude. So the guy that ran it was the guy. I actually work with him now in HVAC. And at the time, we were working HVAC as well, like during the day. And we had started years before that, 1998. 1998, Scott had found an article in the newspaper in which he said there was a wrestling school that's like 5 minutes down the road from us, training kids our age. Okay, it wasn't a real wrestling school. It was just some guys who were like rejects from the Monster Factory who built their own ring in like an auto parts garage, and they were like charging kids money to go there every month. So while we'd go there, they'd like be drunk or high or whatever, and then like they would kind of let us beat the shit out of each other, and then every once in a while they'd come in and beat the shit out of us, but never actually taught us a thing. So except for like they taught us like how to hit the ropes, how to take back bumps, maybe flip bumps. Everything else was just like watch wrestling and then show up here and do what you saw on TV. And this was like the height of the Attitude Era. This is 98. This is like Austin 316, DX, NWO, all like the coolest times in wrestling to be a fan. And then you're like, wow, I'm in the business that I love watching. So, I was there for like a year, maybe a year. And the guy like hit my friend with a kendo stick when my friend expressly said, "Don't effing hit me with that stick." And he hit him, and outside the body parts place, the auto body place, well, right across the street was a Catholic high school. And in the Catholic high school there was a softball game going on at the time. So my friend went outside and went across the street and kicked the air conditioner unit of the Catholic school. The priests heard it. A bunch of the parents heard it. Police showed up and kicked us out. They shut the place down. They shut the place down, but like they kept going. They kept running. However, me and my friends weren't allowed in anymore. So that was a couple months had passed, and then it was my birthday. And my friend's mom was doing drugs and having sex with the guy who started the place. So they let us back in for my 15th birthday. I got to go back. So a couple months later, the place like officially closes down. And one of the guys I met there, Rick Feinberg, was training at CZW. Rick Feinberg, aka Rick Connor, my best friend, he was training at that school, and then he moved over to the CZW school. And another guy who I met there was Discount Dewey Donovan, which he manages Nick Gage now. He's still. Dewey and I kept going back and forth all the time. Like we never stopped talking. And he was like, look, come to CCW. That's where we're at. That's where Rick is. So I started coming. Confession. Rick did not like me at all. So it took a while to get him to kind of like me. And then I started riding with him and we started going to the school together all the time. We became real close friends. I was the best man at his wedding.
Oh, that's nice.
But that's beside the point. It took a while. But then I started, then the CZW school, I was going there and I met Niles, Jeff. We were a tag team. We were good friends, hanging out, buddies all the time. But like, the Zan Dog didn't like me very much. Captain Jesus did not like me very much. So Zandig thought it was funny about like our real lives. So in our real lives, my first girlfriend I ever had, and I brought this up. Niles has been on my show. I've been on his show. We've talked about this. Not a thing. But at the time, my first girlfriend broke up with me so that she could date Niles. John Zandig was busting my balls for it and was like, you were a fucking cuck loser, and pushed Niles and took me off shows completely. So I was like, oh, well, I'm left without like a place to do. I couldn't even train at the school anymore. So obviously, if you look at me in that 2007 match, I was not in shape. I was not in ring shape. I wasn't training that much. I was only working shows for Rock and Rebel, who is the Philadelphia Indies version of Chris Benoit these days.
Yeah.
So I was working, and I was working, do you know Joe Panzerino?
No.
Dapper Johnny Falco. Did you ever see Card Subject to Change? That carny-ass promoter in that documentary that like...
No.
Okay, well...
Sorry.
Carney doc... He just had me come in and put over ticket sellers. So I got to go and wrestle and put over ticket sellers. That's where like Jeff Cannonball came from. If you know Jeff Cannonball,
I do know Jeff Cannonball.
Okay, Jeff Cannonball came from there. Yes,
great.
But that's where Joey Janela came from. That's where.
Oh, okay.
That's where I met Joey Janela when he was like 16 or something. Like this is way back. But where was I going? So yeah. So I thought like when Scott and I were talking about like wrestling all the time, every day at work, Scott was like, what if we started a wrestling promotion? And I was like, I don't know if I think I can do that. I don't know if that's something I want anything to do with. And he's like, here's the deal. I'll come up with all the money. I'll worry about the money stuff. And you just do like helping me get some of the talent and like help me write some of the shows with a plural. Because that was supposed to be just the first one. So I agreed. And we, I wasn't in the business long enough to have any kind of savvy. You know what I mean? I wasn't smart enough. So like if Scott would be like, hey, get me this guy's information. And I'd get him that guy's information and he'd call him and the guy would be like, I want this much. And Scott was like, okay. And he would just agree to the amount that yeah. So it was like promising out all this money, not having any advanced ticket sales is the least smart move you can do when it comes to wrestling. And that comes with being around long enough. And I wasn't around long enough to learn that yet. And it was the best part of it. The thing that shines out the very most for me Derek Sabato sucked on commentary. I have to say that.
Don't worry, I wrote that down several times.
Oh my God, that was terrible. It was so bad, so bad. And I have to say, like, even going back and thinking about some of this stuff, like, it takes me right back to the nervousness that I had in those weeks leading up to it. I was so nervous. So during that match, like, I sucked and I was nervous. Like, Matt Bomboy and I had only met like 2 weeks before that. But I knew this guy deserved to be more highlighted in the business. Like, this guy was so good. And I couldn't believe that enough people didn't know who he was. And I was like, you know what? I really gotta like help put this guy on the map. Looking back on it now, I wish that I would have just like put him over. I wish that I would have left that match, putting him over. Like, the fact that I was still stuck in my head of like, oh, you know, this is going to be my next avenue. This is going to be, I'm a star and I deserve something. I wasn't a star. I didn't deserve shit. I should have just put Matt Bomboy over right from the start. Absolutely. But what came out of it was the fact that Matt Bomboy and I became such close friends. We from there, like, we're on shows together almost every single week. We would not just, I mean, only every once in a while did we ever actually wrestle each other, but we became a tag team. We were called TNE, Team New Era, and we were winning tag belts everywhere. Like, we were just having a good time, and we were getting paid well, and like the most money I've made in the business. I've never make any money in this business. Still, it's very much a pay-to-play business, and it was just like I was having a lot of fun. Getting a whole lot of really good news stories with my friend Matt Bomboy, and some artist painted us into this like Where's Waldo thing. Did you see that? It's called Wrestling Mishmash.
Oh, a while ago, yeah. Oh, you're on that. Oh,
yeah.
sweet.
They put me and Bomboy in it. We're like there's like no other indie guys. There's like Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan and like us. I have no idea why us. But I absolutely I framed it. I have it on the wall in my hallway. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know you guys are on. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be able to pick you guys out on there. So well done, man. But
it's great to listen to you talk.
Oh, there you go. See, obviously, it's great to talk and going at the matches, and I think we can break it down. I'll just be like Conrad Thompson, basically, on this show. Right. You could be Bischoff or Pritchard or whichever 80s or 90s wrestling guy that you want to be.
Sure.
Before we move on to the matches itself and how you're feeling about that, a question that a lot of people want to know, and I think only you can answer this question. Why Wicked Hanuman? Wicked Hanuman is a name.
Well, I think, and Scott and I recently had this conversation. We were talking. Scott was in Hinduism, Hanuman is this god, and I said I thought it was because like his girlfriend at the time was like really into like Wizard of Oz and Wicked. So I was like, oh, why don't we just add Wicked in there so it's not just Hanuman wrestling? And I thought he did that, but he said that I did that. Recently, I wouldn't have known until we just had that conversation. But I don't know why Hanuman, but I know that Wicked had something to do with like we're gonna make Wicked cool, man, like something sort of. I have no idea, but it's stupid and it sucks, and I'm embarrassed about it.
Because I was asking, okay, fair enough then. I thought there was going to be some deep meaning behind the name. Like, yeah, man, we thought it named after a Hindu god.
Yeah, of course Scott's wife now is raised Hindu. He didn't even know her at that point. He didn't even know her yet at that point. So it had nothing to do with that. But it was something like, I don't know. You know what it was like? There was like it was a cool idea. The idea of like, there was more depth to it somewhere, but it got lost as the time has trickled by.
Right. I get you.
Trickled down.
Seemed like a good idea at the time, and now years later, you're like, what was that about?
Yeah.
because before, I remember like Googling this years ago, because I used to read all the results on Zandig fans, and they would talk about all the shows going, because a very well populated time for wrestling at the arena at this point was CZW running every month, Chikara running every few months. They go between the little rec center and then doing the big shows at PWU.
Yeah, Unplugged.
That's right. So, and I think they're 3, and that's regularly. So
that's why like when we first had the idea of all these ideas, I said not at the arena. The arena is too congested. There's too much at the arena. Let's not do the arena. We can draw anywhere else but the arena. And didn't want to listen to me. So that, I guess I couldn't be that idea guy.
But I mean, I guess if you're doing this, there's a lot of enthusiasm I can see here with you guys trying to do this, and naming a show what you want to do, and whatever you want to name it after, even if it's a good idea or not, and want to run the arena just because you can. It's cool, honestly, hearing about. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of issues with the shows, but just the basic attitude of fuck it, let's just do it.
Right.
Sometimes miss it when you're young and you like don't care about the repercussions. It's great, man. I'm 32 now, so it's like there's no way I'd run a wrestling show anywhere. So I'm like, nah, it won't work. But when you're young, you're like, yeah. You just envision, hordes of people going, Hanuman.
That might have been the idea. We wanted people to chant that because of the syllables. The amount of syllables, right. It's very chantable.
Right. All the Italians back in the day used to come and watch Bruno at the Garden. And help WWF, and you're hoping for all these Hindus to show up in Philadelphia, and yeah, we get it, So we have around 150 people here at the arena. It looks and sounds it, sadly, but before the show, they aired Nick Mondo's movie. He's done a few, so this is Fighting the Still Life. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when it says it was aired there, I remember them showing clips of this on one of his first documentaries about him. He's done a bunch of them. This is the one with Ken Anderson in it.
Right.
So when it says it aired, what was this, aired on the wall or like projector?
The arena had like screens, like Titantron.
Oh, okay.
And it showed up on a few of them. They were all over the building.
Oh, right.
But I'd say it was cool because no one else had the idea to do that. And it was like bringing Mondo back to Philly, like back. He was in CZW, but like he wasn't. It was sort of like and that all came through. I forget why exactly Mondo was a part of it, but it was he stayed at my house. Like he came to Philly and he stayed at my house. The funny part about it was like I have to always mention this. At CZW, I was in high school when I was training at CZW. Like Fake UTV and like my training, all this, like all the best era of CZW was me being a high school kid watching it all. So like I kind of marked out for everybody. And like it was funny because like I have a funny story about like Mondo stayed at my house that weekend, and he was like, I had a couch in my room. Please remember, I'm 23, 24 at the time, and I had a poster behind my couch from Pirates of the Caribbean, and it had Orlando Bloom on it. It was, it had everybody on it, but he pointed at Orlando Bloom, and he was like, every time I see him, I think of you. Every time, because I look like Orlando Bloom.
I was going to say, back then with the locks and everything, absolutely.
And I was like, Mondo thinks of me? In my head, I was like, oh, you think of me every time you see this guy? Like I like marked out a little bit. Oh, you think of me? That's nice.
Oh, that's great. But if he gets into films and ends up casting Orlando Bloom, and he's like, "Wow, what inspired you to put me in your film, Nick Mondo?" He's like, "Oh, no reason."
he casts a film of his life, and the only one who's in it who is actually in films now, who acts. he doesn't cast. He just puts Orlando Bloom in there instead.
All right, in this scene, you do nothing. Great. Easy payday. So it's Wicked Hanuman. We're at the arena, 150 people. I'm not going to lie, though. There's been plenty of times I've seen the arena looking like this before. So it's not as if it's the only company ever to run the arena and get 150 people. 3PW certainly lost their ass a bunch of times there. So, Frank Talent is at ringside. I think he had to be because of the Philly Athletic Commission. And Chad Shaft is timekeeping. And I have him on Facebook. And again, I'm probably marked out the same way that you marked out of having Nick Mondo sleep on your couch because of that. Because again, seen him all the time on all these DVDs. And I asked Chad Shaft, why are you timekeeping? And he says, when he got the arena, Frank Talent asked him to, and he said yes. That's the reason why he's timekeeping.
Well, Dennis Shock was there. Dennis Shock was our ring announcer. And that was he hadn't been at the arena for years. Like he was the CZW ring announcer back when I started, even before I started. Like I was actually the guy who ran around for Dennis Shock, who would get everyone's hometown and weights and things they wanted to say in their entrance, and I'd get that to Dennis Shock before the shows would start. That's part of my paying dues process. I would do that, and tons of stories from that. But that was me and Shock always got along really well, and I don't remember if I had reached out to him to do the show or if like Eddie Valentine had reached out to him. But a lot of it, I think, had a lot to do with like I really close friends with Eddie Valentine, and so much more at that time because like, you know, he had just served 3 years in prison, and while he was gone, nobody was talking to him, and he wrote 2 letters. He wrote 2 letters out from prison where one was to me and one was to Ian Knox, who you see in the show, teaming with Test as the Irish String Team, which we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Don't worry, we'll get to
when
that.
you get there. But he sent both of those letters to Ian and said, give one of these to James, a.k.a. Corey Castle. And he didn't. But in the letter, he talked about how he was no longer able to live in the closet. So he came out in the letter. In the trickle down the lane, whisper down the lane, broken telephone sort of way, everybody in the locker room back then was just going like, oh my God, Eddie's so gay. Oh my God, Eddie's gay. Like it was a homophobic time. People were not receiving it well. But I knew that he was a good person. I knew that I loved him. I was grateful for him. And it didn't matter. It didn't like I've come from a very open and accepting, like my family, my family growing up, I was the only one who was straight. The only openly straight member of my family. So I didn't care at all. So we would talk all the time. We talk like every day. And when he told me that when he got out of prison, while he was in prison, Chris Cash had passed away, which Chris Cash was his roommate. Him and Chris Cash were very close friends. And he wanted to pay some tribute to Cash. And he like reached out on the CZW News, CZWWrestling.com, whatever that email address was. And the person said that John Zandig said that Chris Cash wouldn't want you there because you're a homosexual. So I was like, we got to do as much of like, that's why I wanted GQ in the audience. That's why I wanted GQ there at the show. That's why I wanted to do stuff with GQ. I wanted to make this my own way of paying tribute to Chris Cash, which I couldn't do. I wasn't allowed because I was pushed out of the company, and Eddie Valentine was pushed out of the company. So I thought this was going to be our like kind of platform because Chris Cash, I try to say this as often as possible. Chris Cash really looked out for me. Like I started this school like 6 months before him, and he started only a couple. He was such a natural. He picked it up so quick, especially that CCW style. He picked it up. He was like, he came from backyard wrestling, so he kind of like got a little bit more like the deathmatchy sort of stuff, and he was like, he came up to me and he's like, look, man, for some reason John Zanding doesn't like you, and I don't know what it is, but you know what you're doing in there. Let's go show him. So he made it his focus to like make sure I gotten better. You know what I mean? Make sure he kept like having matches with me down at practice so that Zandig would see it. And then, then September 2002, I got on the shows, and, I didn't really get to have many matches with Cash on shows, but like, I wanted to pay tribute to him in some way.
Thank you for all that information. I had no idea about that. And yeah, Eddie Valentine is someone, we were saying before about the comment about Rock and Rebel. Sometimes when you find out just that, it's hard to not think about anything else. And you go, oh yeah, Eddie Valentine. Yeah, that whole going to prison for armed robbery for 3 years thing. Yeah, it comes up and stuff. And then again, it is nice to see that he wanted to do that for Chris Cash, because he had such a positive impression on everybody. It's one of these people, when he passed, there aren't many stories negative about Chris Cash. Mm-hmm. It's all positive when he gets brought up. It's nice that he wanted to pay tribute that way. Right. And it's a shame that Zandig is the way he is. But my way of consolidating as a wrestling fan, that wrestlers aren't idols or anything, or people that go, oh, I like that guy's match and nothing else about him, is the fact that they're wrestlers. You'd have to be a bit weird or stupid or odd to want to do this in the first place, especially a man like John Zandig, who jumps off roofs. So
it all comes from a place of you're damaged. Like, I think the real core of most wrestlers is damaged mixed with like white trash upbringing.
There's a good bit in Nick Mondo's more recent documentary where the start of it's him and Wifebeater backstage. And Nick Mondo says, like, and Wifebeater's, covered in, all the blood. You remember all the Wifebeater matches.
Yeah.
And he says something like, so why do you do this? And apparently Wifebeater, without missing a beat, just goes, rough childhood. You? And like, that's why the documentary comes from. Nick Mondo's like, yeah, why am I doing this? And he talks about a lot of Catholic guilt and all this. But like, apparently Wifebeater was just like, oh yeah, rotten childhood. Eat some crisps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you for all the information. Segueing that into the first match of Wicked Hanuman. And I like you said that it is pulling out like, no, I'm really open-minded. Mate, you're at a show named after a Hindu god for 150 people. We get it. Don't worry. And here we have, who set up the show but Mr. Curry Castle himself with his Calvin Klein homage shirt. And you're saying beforehand, again, these are the things I noticed being a sad wrestling person, but you're saying that you weren't necessarily as in shape as you were a few years ago because you weren't working as much. The fact that you're wearing a shirt is that sign like, okay.
Yeah. I was not confident.
That's fine, man. Former wrestler GQ is here at ringside, says Derek Sabato. That's nice. It's nice almost that they are setting up that there is going to be an angle here or something like, hey, GQ's here. Derek Sabato, of course, takes a gigantic shit all over it by going, GQ retired. No one noticed. I'm like, hey, there you go, Derek. That's the job of the ring announcer, the commentator, to really build up the talent.
Put over the talent.
That's he also went really selling this.
And then he shit all over Matt Bomboy. He was like, oh, Bomboy's whole family's here.
I was about to say, yeah, Matt Boy's here. Sparto doesn't want to offend him due to the 14 family members he's brought to ringside. So was this true? Because there seemed about a lot of support for Bomboy.
Yeah, dude. No, he had never wrestled. He had never wrestled at the arena before. Right. And I was very much like, I want the world to also see and bite the bait that is Matt Bomboy. I wanted the arena to discover how good of a worker he was. Like I mean, I probably should have put him over. Honestly, the biggest part of it is like, I didn't do any covers. I didn't do a lot of crowd work. I didn't do a lot of selling. There wasn't a lot of psychology in it. It was, to me, when I'm watching that back, the most embarrassed of that as a performer than anything I've ever done.
That's fair enough. I'll say this. I'm quite numb to a lot of wrestling at this period because you say all this and you are right in a certain way. Yeah, there wasn't any crowd work.
Mm-hmm.
There was so little pinfalls that Derek Sabato, again, rides the wrestlers for not doing pinfalls over and over again. But at the same time, this was part of the course in 07.
Right.
It wasn't always going to be like the four-way match later on in the evening. It's a lot of this, a lot of stuff's like this. And to give yourself some credit, because I want to be, I'll pile on, but I won't pile on. I'll obviously insult and grab you. But if if you're saying I'm going to go, yeah, you suck. To give you some credit though, the crowd is into it. The 15 or 16 or so wrestling fans is brought for the Noah's Ark of Bomboy fans. They're into him. They're cheering and they are booing you just to spite you. They're cheering when Bomboy rips your shirt.
Dude, if you watch that, his hand was filled with my hair. He ripped all my hair out when he ripped the shirt.
Oh.
So if you watch that back, you just watch him like rip all my hair out. And he's like, ah! And he's wiping his hands because they're filled with my hair. He just ripped all my hair out. But, sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. Suplexes send Castle outside where Bomboy connects with a smooth dive caught by Castle on half the guardrail. Bomboy looks like, I've written down here, imagine what a 2007 MMA guy looks like. He's got the tat, he's got the shorts and everything. It's He's missing a tap out t-shirt and then the look is complete.
He totally was an MMA guy, honestly. Before wrestling, he was in MMA, trained by Hoist Gracie. Like he was an MMA, like legit MMA dude, and he could F you up if he wants to.
I'll take your word for it.
Not you specifically, just everybody, anybody.
I'll probably deserve it. Bomboy super kicks Castle, and that's good enough for the short-lived SMV Smart Video live replay that they stopped doing. Apparently, according to Zandig fans saying, no, stop doing that shit. Save the replays for after the match. Bomboy hits a chair salt. Sabato continues to focus on the negatives. And Bomboy goes through the chair in the corner, generating holy shit chants. It's a good sign for the first match of the night. Mm-hmm. Castle tries to kill Bomboy by shoving his head in between a chair and ramming it into the ring post. So you're trying to Pillmanize Bomboy in the opening match. It's a good spot. And then Castle picks up...
Not for the opening match. There for sure should never be outside stuff, chairs stuff, dives. First match, absolutely never. It's against the etiquette of the wrestlers. And Test really was pissed off at us.
Oh, no doubt.
And so was Low Key. They were both very mad at us.
That doesn't sound like Low Key. And then you pick up the bits of Bomboy that are still floating, pin him after the muscle buster. I think I've written it down here. I've actually written down the Castle Moat, but that can't be right. What was the name of this finishing move?
Blundar? I didn't want to call it that. Rick kept calling it the Castle Blundar. I guess it was a reference to some cartoon or something. I didn't even know.
Oh. I was hoping you would know.
But it was a bad move. It wasn't a good move. I didn't like it. I'm embarrassed that was the move, but that's what got used. It was terrible.
It's fair enough. It was terrible, but it was good enough for the win and polite applause. So I love these guys because, again, a Bomboy's over and they're showing you respect because you beat Bomboy. Bomboy would stop working in 2013 according to CageMatch.net. So... obviously, you would team up later on. There's two new era. Do you know what he's doing now? Or
he's a runner, man. He's a marathon runner. Oh. He's a dad. He's married. He's got 2 kids. He's having a house built. Like he's over in real life. He's over in real life. He does not need to put on oil and put on short tights to try to impress anybody. He doesn't need anyone's validation. He knows how over he is.
Boy, he's got that self-confidence and self-love. Oh, what a loser, Corey.
Wow,
who can relate to that?
Well, that was a he had a fight in the locker room against Big Vito. Like they had a screaming match in the locker room where Big Vito was like, he's like, If Shawn Michaels was here right now, what do you think he'd say to you when he saw what you just did out there? He'd be like, he would probably be like, what the fuck am I doing in some high school in Vineland, New Jersey? I'm Mr. WrestleMania.
Okay, that's worth it there. I mean, just that reply. What do you say after that?
Right.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't say that.
I think Vito took his jacket off. Like he was going to start some shit. And then I was like, oh, dude, am I about to beat up Big Vito in the locker room? This was a Saturday. I had a show on Sunday. Or I'm sorry, this was Friday. I had a show on Saturday. On Sunday, I was doing extra work for the WWE. I was going to be doing Survivor Series. And then the next day I was going to be doing Raw, and then the next day I was going to be doing SmackDown. I was like, am I going to beat the fuck out of Big Vito in the locker room 2 days before I go to work for WWE and extra work at capacity?
They probably would have booked you if you'd done it.
But you know,
sorry, go on.
It was more about the fact that like it was surprising. It was like the amount of delusions. And I think Bomb Boy said, I don't need this as much as you do. I don't need this as much as you do. I own the house. I have a nice car. I don't need this as much as you do. Like I do this because I love it. You need it. And that's something like I think I've always gravitated towards finding that balance. And that's why me and Matt got so much closer all the time. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was great.
Back to your notes.
No, I mean, that's a fantastic. I mean, feel free to bring up any stories like that. Jesus. But so what was the argument over, by the way? Was it because Bomboy did too much stuff in the ring?
It was Vito was running the locker room and he said, oh, I want to make sure you get this super kick in and then you sell a bunch of other stuff. And Bomboy did exactly what he asked. It was just that like how Vito was intimidated by the fact that this other bald dude, this other bald muscular dude is out there outperforming whatever his expectations were, and then just wanted to give him shit to like be an alpha on it.
Right. Okay. And where was this?
Vineland, New Jersey.
Oh, okay, great.
Some bullshit high school gym in Vineland, New Jersey.
And Shawn Michaels was nowhere to be found.
No.
And sadly, after the match, the mics in the arena, that I don't think they really got sorted out, to be honest with you. I think there's a time maybe in 2008 they start being audible for the home video audience. Mm-hmm. But to me, it just sounds like the teachers from Charlie Brown's Peanuts. You know, no. But we can get it that there's an altercation between you and, hey, look, retired wrestler GQ happens to be there. And I put, good for this company. They set up something in advance for the next show, but I can't hear dick. I know that you shove GQ's mate down who's next to him, and then it comes to blows. But luckily for you and everybody else involved, the shortest security guy this side of Ronnie the limo driver is able to stop you both. But don't worry, we'll come to this later on with the stuff. But might as well talk about GQ now. As a fan, I always thought GQ, not to sound stupid, but was money. He looked like he had all the goods to go far in this, and then he just stopped. I believe I've heard or read over the years, maybe I'm making this up, he had some sort of chiropractic or some sort of, not chiropractic, or something to do with the body that he went back to rather than do wrestling. But
right,
you said that you knew GQ, so
yeah, it was just risk versus reward. You know what I mean? What am I getting? Like I've said to you already, a lot of the business on this level is very pay to play, and GQ was more about getting paid to do things that he was passionate about that could make him more money. And I mean, and good for him, man. Like he's married and has some kids, and I still catch up with him every once in a while on what's that app? There's the app you just like send like little quick videos with each other back and
TikTok?
forth. No. It's like personal videos. Oh man. I'm gonna tell you right now. I forget now. what the hell?
Yeah, it sounds like a cool person thing, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's only for cool people. I mean, you have to be invited by the cool kids club. I don't know how I got invited. No, it's called Marco Polo. It's just like this like little videos you send. Hey, buddy, how's it going? And it's personal to whoever back and forth. But
sweet.
I don't use it very much, but every once in a while I'll get on there and I'll have a message from George or something.
Lovely. Thank you for letting me know what I'm missing out on.
Marco Polo. Just look it up.
The next match is Metro Sickness versus, of all teams, Faith in Nothing. First of all, Rick Feinberg, who's also doing commentary, says they're Metro Sickness. Eric Tuttle is metrosexual and Jude has AIDS. Jesus Christ. Metro Sickness.
Okay. So if you know anything about Jude, he once was a way larger boy, and then he lost a ton of weight. So I think Rick was always making the joke.
Oh, right. I thought he just had AIDS because of sickness. That was the
that.
Oh, right.
I don't think it actually had anything to do with the name of their tag team at all. But it was always the joke that he lost all the weight because he had AIDS. I don't know.
One way of doing it.
Okay, I have to say, on Rick's defense, he was angry that he wasn't wrestling on the show, and he was doing a significant amount of drinking up at the commentary table.
I don't doubt it.
So he had like a ton of rum.
Oh, good. At least it's got good taste then. That's all right.
Yeah, it was like rum and Diet Coke up at the commentary table the whole time.
Oh, no, it's Diet Coke. Fuck him. This is essentially both men Metro Sickness's retirement match, aside from a brief NBA, the Maven Bentley Association Tag Gauntlet appearance the following year. But before we get to the bit at the end of this, which is the other thing that this show is sadly known for, Christian Faith Nothing, aka the future Ricky Shane Page, the Ohio guys. And I message RSP because he's a nice friendly guy with me about this, and he says, "Yeah, it was our first time at the arena."
I didn't know that was him. I didn't.
Right, I didn't know it was him either until recently.
I don't think I even knew. Wait, I don't think I knew. I don't think I've ever even met Ricky Shane Page, but I've heard the name a bunch. I know, like, I do stuff with Matt Tremont, so I see that like he's doing stuff with like. So I'm doing H2O Undiscovered now with Tremont, and I saw that he was like having a match with that guy. I didn't realize that was the same guy. But the way we found Faith in Nothing, aka me, the way I found Faith in Nothing was I found them on MySpace and booked them on the show.
Right. So that, I mean, it's crazy when you think about like how all that was, but how useful things like MySpace were, and then later on Facebook, and obviously for like, wow, I don't have to like ring you or get like, hey, it's me, can I book you?
Yeah.
I said, any memories? And he went, oh, absolutely. Because he's like, oh my God, ha ha ha, this was a weird fucking show. But yeah, it was what a crazy place to make his debut at the arena. And again, funny knowing what he got up to later on. And yeah, all the way from Ohio. So all these other appearances at AIW and all those other places there, and then showing up into Philly that one time.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember exactly how, like, I came across them somehow and I told Scott about them and he was like, yeah, we'll use them. Absolutely. And then Jude still remains a very special person in my life. I mean, he lives in Las Vegas now. He's got like adult sons now who are like football players. He's a great guy. His name's Eric Crew. I recently had him on my podcast, but dude, it's such a formative time, and him and I teamed together. We did some shows, like I think it was like right as like we weren't doing CKNY anymore, so we were doing some indie shows where Jude and I were a tag team, and we were called the Diamond Icons. I don't know why, But that was the name of our tag team.
The Diamond Icons, because Corey's a diamond and Eric has. Never mind.
No, we every promo we would say when you look at a ring, like a ring, the thing that stands out the most, the diamonds, and we're the diamonds in this ring.
Yeah.
So we would say that as like the promo every match, but it wasn't for a promotion that like anybody keeps track of the internet. Like a lot of the stuff I've done has been so independent. Like it's like will also be considered. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, shindy.
Yeah.
So it's like
we have those in the UK. Don't worry.
Yes, it's below the level of like you don't know what the hell's going on.
Right. I understand. This match is, I think I've written here in a nice way. It's gay, spots. Some nice moves from the Ohio guys, but there isn't much to type apart from gay jokes and Rick complaining about them stealing his spots. There's not much effort to get the crowd into it other than gay. And again, Rick Feinberg, was he ever going to be on the show? Was he expected to be on the show?
No.
Oh, no. Right. It's just because he knew you and you were part of the Dharma 04 crew or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, okay. No effort to get the crowd into it. Tuttle lands badly on a Phoenix splash avoidance and lands badly on his leg. Hot tag to nothing results in RSP destroying everybody. Crowd gets happy because he's doing boot scrapes. He's like a mini Lesnar here. Lesnar wore pleather. Tuttle does the 10 punch in the corner, but with his crotch in the guy's face, which I haven't seen before. And then sadly appears to end his career with a horrible move. And I think it's the only clip that SMV put on YouTube about this show. On YouTube, he goes for a moonsault to the outside and somehow manages to smash both of his knees and legs on the guardrail. And according to people I've spoken to, broke both legs, is completely unable to even stand
shins.
Up. Shins, I beg your pardon.
Both
and
shins.
according to RSP, he nearly died during surgery as the doctors discovered a blood clot as they're doing this, but luckily they caught it early. So I think the fact that, never mind the guy's wrestling career, the fact that the guy was okay after this is something to be celebrated.
Not somebody that I keep up with. I don't really keep up with Eric Tuttle, but I do keep up with Eric Crew, like I said, Jude, and he was keeping up with him for a bit, and he said that he couldn't keep straight. Tuttle was kind of like a embellisher, like he would just tell stories. Right. So he just couldn't keep straight the embellishments. So Jude, I think, cut him out. But I'm not. I don't know, But
yeah, but that's fair enough. I mean, while this is happening, because it's obviously your friend, are you just backstage, doing what wrestlers usually do, or is there any other roles you got on the show?
I don't really remember, honestly.
That's fine.
I think I was just like talking to Bomb Boy, hanging out with Bomb Boy. I knew Scott had his hands full with the fact that like he couldn't pay anybody. Like, not that he couldn't pay anybody, but he was like, we didn't make shit, and I lost my I know he was running around like he had to like have his friends like go run to the bank for him. Like he was all in rescue mode. I didn't know any of that. And it took me 13 years for us to even have the conversation because like after that match happened, and like I said, Scott and I, we went through seventh grade through high school graduation being like closest friends, talking all the time, like every day. And then it got to that show happened, and he lost his ass so hard that he couldn't talk to me. He didn't talk to me for a long time. Like, it took a while. And, like, we can finally talk about it now 13 years later. But for the most part, he showed up at my house on Monday with a box of wrestling stuff. Like, all his wrestling threw it in a box and handed me the box. Like, he broke up with wrestling.
Oh, wow. It was that, like, that much of an effect on him.
Yeah. I mean, he's now into it. He's now back into it. Like, he watches NXT all the time, and he talks about NXT all the time. But like, it was too much of like he took a bath. Like, he really took a bath on this event.
I don't doubt it, because I know it's an expensive arena anyway, because of the whole, the XPW invasion of 2002 and all that, and then XPW had to give it back because it's like, how much money it costs to rent this place, So I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that he's able to like recover now and look at wrestling. But
right.
The next match, Gregg Alexander versus Akbar. Neither man has a cage match profile. Akbar comes out to Muhammad Hassan's theme from WWE. Some dude in the front row gets really excited at the idea that Muhammad Hassan, or maybe even Davari at this point, is actually going to be here, and looks disappointed when a man who I've described as is in big titty shape comes out. He starts the match by praying and shouting Allah. Yeah. Okay. In the 80s, we had guys like the Iron Sheik and the Russians. In the mid-2000s, we had Evil.
I didn't watch this. And I don't know these guys. Well, okay. When I say I don't know these guys, I didn't know these guys at the time. The guy who's Gregg Alexander, his name is Ray Alexander, and they messed it up. Ray Alexander was one of Adam Flash's students. Right. He got trained by Adam Flash, went on, and like he became a part of TNE. Like we did stuff with him in TNE in like the WPW. There was like an independent company in Reading, so it would be like me and Rick and Matt Bomboy and Ray Alexander and Missy was a part of it at one point. Missy Sampson and Roxy Cotton, aka Gabby Gilbert. We're all part of and this guy Dinmock, who you might not know because he didn't wrestle in a lot of like internet tracked wrestling companies.
I'm sure if I had a guy like Rob Naylor on, he'd know everything about him. He'd know every match he ever had in his blood type. But me, I'm afraid, my area of expertise when it comes to Philly wrestling scene was he at the arena? Was it on Smart Mart Video? If the answers to those questions are no, fuck it. We get an update on Talboy. He has been taken to the hospital. Nice that they did that. Do you know would anyone have to go to the hospital with him, or would he just be put in an ambulance? Or there we go. I thought I'd follow up like the roving reporter, like Kermit the Frog.
No, honestly, I don't remember. It was a lot of it, and I have to say, man, I say this with a lot of things, and I'm 36 years old. I've lived a ton of life. Like, I've done a lot of things and seen a lot of people and done a lot of experiences since a lot of this happened. So if even people try to bring up like high school to me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just completely don't know who the hell you're talking about. Sorry.
See, if I was a young'un, I'd be like, how can you forget all these important things? Again, I'm 32. I'm with you. I see things on my Facebook that happened a year ago. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Alexander does a cool bit, even though this match is basically, there's a bad guy, boo him. Alexander does a cool bit where he shoves Akbar in the corner, gets over him, and does crunches that when he's going back are pressing him forward in the ring. And I thought that was a pretty cool spot. I don't think many people have done it. Alexander borrows Samoa Joe's kick out of a pin to a Boston Crab. That's nice. Akbar does some submission moves nicely. No one gives a shit. And he wins after a big clothesline. Akbar then gets some heat by saying the only reason people are booing him because they're losing the war. The gimmick sucks, but there's some like old people who are like, hey, it gets the necessary action out of it. Yeah, I think you'll find we're winning, good sir. So at least he got some heat towards the end, but he, again, I know it's not, I'm not riddled with abs myself, but he just came out looking like shit. But good for Gregg Alexander then. And then we get Crazed versus JoJo. And I spoke to MLJ on Twitter, who was at the show. Obviously, a big guy, indie wrestling around this time, commentated and worked for CCW and other places. But he says he was there in the show.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, cool. Great.
Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And who I brought this show up, he went, oh, yeah. That Crazed versus JoJo match was really good. And I went, yeah, you're right. I agree with that. Crazed is a skinny mass dude. JoJo is a face-painted large gentleman, I've typed here. And both were from I'll quote the name of the wrestling company, Damn, That's Wrestling.
Right. That was Vineland, New Jersey. That was the Big Vito show.
Oh,
show
okay.
Big Vito was trying to run. Yeah.
That is a fantastic name for a wrestling company.
It's so bad.
Yeah, but it's bad and good at the same time. Derek Sabato goes, do you remember the Maven Idol thing from Cage of Death 6? Well, Craze was a part of it. I don't recall. I think there were like 20 people involved in that. But God bless him for trying. It's so rare on commentary, the instance of Derek Sabato trying to make something sound good that I'm like, I'll write that down.
Is Derek Sabato trying to get somebody over? What? No way.
Crazed tries doing moves to the much larger person, but he has to sell it like he's not wrestling opponent the size. So it's sometimes it's a bit weird. I know, like indie wrestling, like whatever, don't use logic. But when a guy the size of Crazed tries doing like a Frankenstein, and the other guy's like, whoa, and you're like, hang on, shouldn't be a bit of a thing there. But it doesn't matter. I'm being way too anal because he goes outside and does a crazy tope on the JoJo, mostly guardrail. It's a bad night for dives on this show. Right. But it gets the crowd's attention. They're like, oh, that was nice. It's better for the live crowd than it is the people watching on DVD or on independentwrestling.tv where the show is on, as it turns out. And Derek Sabato then rides Rick for getting names of moves wrong, flustering this man and probably causing him to drink more rum and Diet Coke. The match continues, but it's more on the bit distracting. The commentators never shut the fuck up. And then JoJo and Craze keep up the big bumps, and Crazed wins with a very nice 450. A very fine match. But the important thing is, the person we're speaking to right now, Mr. Corey Castle, reappears and sends GQ over the guardrail. Castle lawn dart in the ring. I've typed here. I think I've got that wrong, but that's what it sounded like to me. To end the brawl, when Maven, his entire flock, shows up, and you are carried out like a crazed fan. I've written here.
I do not remember that at all.
But it's like they building heat. Like, stay tuned for more Monday Night Hanuman. You know,
right.
Getting all the ankles ready and stuff. Any memories of Crazed or JoJo?
Hanuman Day Night Raw.
Hey, there you go. Take a bow.
Crazed ran DCW, so I did work his shows for some years before and after the Wicked Hanuman thing. And he was good, man. I met him at the same time that I met Sabian, aka Black G's, and Joker, Bill Posada. So they were all with that group. I have nothing against Bill Posada or Sabian, but I have to say, like, when they got CZW cool, they kind of left those guys behind.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to make sure they weren't left behind. Like, I think a lot of the point of the show was like these motherfuckers ain't loyal, bro. You know.
Well, that's a nice segue to the next match. Where there's a bunch of, again, obviously it's not the correct term, but I guess there's ex-CZW dudes who weren't getting any love from the company at the time.
Right.
The tables match with the reunited VD, Lee Valentine and Dharma, back together again for their last time until the tribute to Trent Acid 2 in 2011, many, many years later. Am I right in saying then, is this his first match back after?
No. I mean,
right. Actually, I don't know that much about it.
I mean, the internet wrestling versus like the companies that the internet keeps up with versus like the companies that are out there and the companies where matches happen. Like, Eddie was training. He had a night at a wrestling school where he would like help train people, and he would he would like do shows. He was running shows. Like, he had his own ring. He was on the move to be, he wanted this business just as much as we all do. But it's just very much that same thing I was talking to you about, that this becomes kind of a pay-to-play business in a lot of ways. And it's like Eddie, for a while, was running his own promotion in Reading called WPW. That was in that company. He teamed with Dahmer there, and I teamed with Rick Feinberg. We were KFC, Castle Feinberg Connection, which you might have also seen on like NBA shows. We did a couple shows with NBA.
Yeah, I've seen a few NBA shows. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were a goofball tag team. We wrestled. I think we wrestled the Metro Sickness on one of the shows, where the finish of the match was. This was around the time where William Regal was a big deal, and he would like get brass knuckles out of his trunks.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he'd hit them, and it was called the Power of the Punch. Where in our Power of the Punch, it was a Hawaiian punch underneath the ring, and I'd pull the Hawaiian punch out and hit the guy with it. So,
that was pretty all right.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid, but hilarious at the same time.
You know what? I'll allow it. I like that.
Yeah.
Wait, did you get the pin with it?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, then it's all right. The kick out, fuck it.
It was a kick out. I ain't having it, bro.
For me.
I'm a politics to get you blackballed, dude. Kick out of the Power of the Punch.
Big Mac Smack is here with VD, like the good old days. He insults the fine cinematography of Nick Mondo to establish that they are the bad guys here in this match. And I've typed up here, an adorable-looking Danny Havoc shows up. Because at this point, he had such a, I don't know how to describe it, a nice face. Yeah. Everyone else comes out, you know.
He wasn't weathered yet.
And Nate Hatred are like, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. And Danny Havoc looks like he's walking into a shop and he's wondering what Snickers he's going to eat. You know, he's got that look on his face. He looks so innocent. Derek Sabato, what's wearing red and isn't trained? Danny Havoc. Sadly, there's no pop for him from the 150 people. I assumed he had a rep, but I guess, again, as I'm establishing this, I only know that bubble, the CZ Dub bubble.
Right.
He was over by that point, by 07 at least. As Derek Sabato brings up later on, you know, the 10,000 matches he had with DJ Hyde, where he lost to DJ Hyde every time. But apparently that didn't translate to places like Wicked Hanuman. Oh, well.
Right. It was like, I think at that era, honestly, I mean, I don't know for sure as far as what CZW was actually doing, but I think DJ was in the process of starting to run stuff there. So it was kind of like DJ and Maven were kind of running stuff there. So I think when you look at the Wicked Hanuman show, I think they used the CZW ring. I think like a lot of it was like, well, just it's built in with the price of the building, or you know what I'm saying? Like, it was all really weird and incestuous, I'd have to say. But the whole DJ Danny Havoc thing, like, I have to say, I was still at the CZW school when Danny Havoc had started training there. He was my bud. I have a thing that I say all the time that I got from Danny Havoc. Danny Havoc, he said this to me, and I never stopped laughing or smiling when I think about it. He just went up to me and went, "Oh, Corey Castle, you old so-and-so." And I thought it was hilarious, and I say "you old so-and-so" to everybody all the time now.
Oh, that's great. I only had the pleasure of meeting Danny Havoc once and was only at the arena in the first CCW show of 2011. Just happened to be in the country at the time and vaguely in the same area. And I forget the match he had, but he was there. And I'm like, oh, man, looking forward to your match tonight. And he just deadpanned, I'm not.
That's exactly him. Yeah.
And his tag team partner is From Hell, Nate Hatred.
Right.
And again, a guy who I don't think at this point was in CCW. I think he makes some appearances later on.
Yeah, he was on the outs with Zandig at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Havoc tries wrestling Dharma, but he's the Teach. And in my head, that was supposed to sound like the Deej. I don't think that works very well. I won't do that again. So VD double team him behind the referee's back. They continue to tag in and do traditional wrestling, causing a fan to yell out, "I thought this was a tables match." It's a fair point. We'll carry on with that. Havoc gets the hot tag to Nate, who gets big clotheslines.
That fan was MLJ.
I don't doubt it. Of course it did. Who else was going to show that?
No, I have no idea. I was just a guess.
Sabato then wonders, why is no one going for pinfalls? Crowd isn't that into it because of the wrestling like a normal match, I guess. Havoc gets destroyed by Dharma for a bit, including a moment where he bends him into a 45-degree angle with a camel clutch.
Oh, dude, I couldn't. If I had a dime for every time John Dahmer bent me in half with a camel clutch, it it would I'd have more money than I've ever had. Like, honestly, that hurt so bad, and Dahmer just loved doing it. It hurt so bad. Like, I almost peed myself every time.
I don't doubt it. It does look fucking horrible, but hey, it's the Dahmer. I don't know about being trained in the wrestler's business. Who am I to judge? The tables show up. The crowd is happy. Yay. It's weird seeing a team like VD in an arena when I've only watched them in CCW, where it was the wrestling, the SATs, and the Ratchies, and all the other people in 2001.
The Southcore Connection.
Southcore Connection, all the greats,
Right.
And getting no pop from the crowd, despite the stuff they're doing. It's like watching the Legion of Doom post 2003 as a wrestling fan. Hatred tries German suplexing Valentine through a table, and because fucking Hatred had that fucking core on him. The table only bends. Crowds boo, because it's Philly. Sabato must be Japanese, so he does it again. It definitely goes through. So that's V out. Wax the photographer assists Nate Hatred setting up two tables outside and one on top of the other. Wax moonlighting there. Hatred heads up on top, so Dahmer tosses him off, but sadly for him, when he goes through one table and slides off and hits the floor. But that's Hatred out. V, they continue to wrestle, so no one's eliminated. V connects with a giant palm strike to Danny Havoc, which busts his face and nose open. Crowd pops more for the palm strike than any of the table spots, by the way. Sabato mocks him out of times. Havoc lost the hide. VD sets up Havoc for a super bomb, keeping him down there, just in the about to be picked up position. Holds on to him while Valentine hits him with a chair-assisted dropkick and then super bombs him to end it. No, he doesn't. While he's in the table, Dahmer pins him 1, 2, 3 to win the tables match. Weirdness aside, but at the end, Hatred teases destroying Havoc post-match and holds his hand up as Havoc's bleeding very badly and doesn't seem impressed and says as much to the person recording this with a little camera. Yeah, what did you think, pal?
What did I think about the match?
Yeah, all right, I'm sorry, I'm acting like you've watched this down with me. Sorry, I'm going back to the default podcast mode. But I mean, obviously you said that you have respect for Valentine and all this. Yeah. Any feedback from him about this? Was he happy to be doing
Here's what I know. Here's what I know going into this match.
Right.
Here's what Eddie Valentine and Nate Hatred had a series of matches against each other in Japan. When CZW went over to Japan, that's what I always thought was so cool. Such respect. The amount of respect for the craft that is pro wrestling for me came from the amount of respect that I saw through Eddie Valentine. A lot of it came through like him going like the wars that we had in Japan. Like when he would say the wars that me and Mondo had back in the PA days before Mondo became a big thing. It always made me like really want this more and more. Not evidenced by the fact that I stunk, but eventually like I stuck around. I stuck around Eddie Valentine. And we didn't really talk much about this show because it really, I think it was traumatizing that we all had our hopes so high, only for them to go so badly. But I didn't talk about it with Dahmer very much, but I know he knew that him and Nate could do cool stuff. He knew him and Grant could do cool stuff, but like no one really gave them like here's what the rules are to the match. Here's, you know what I mean? Like you need to pin them, but there are tables involved. And that was, who knows? You know what I mean? Like no one made that. If that had been clearly communicated through all avenues to go, this is the kind of match we want. And this is why we want it this way. Like, whenever there's a team, you got to assume this. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm saying if there's a team who's never teamed before, teaming up for the first time, and they're going against a team who was a big team, that team's not going to win. You know what I mean? The established team is going to win. But I think, it was in our heads as far as like booking this. This was just going to be step one. You know what I mean? It was going to lead to something more and hopefully be something bigger, hopefully be something cooler, because I think Danny and Nate wanted to work with each other. So I think it was like, well, we're going to, test the waters on this one. But then it was like, it's hard, dude. It's hard to stay motivated to have a really good match when you show up at a show and there's like nobody there.
Right.
And like, there's a feeling of like dread in the air because like somebody feels like they lost their ass on it. And it's like, I mean, I've been there, not just from this show, but I mean, through other shows and experiences, like where like, oh man, like this is not normal. I think that could have played a factor in the the amount of enthusiasm.
Of course. Oh, I mean, I don't doubt it. I think there was some people being very harsh sometimes in reviews, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like they're trying very hard." And you're like, "Well, yeah. When there's more people in the back than there are out front, what the fuck are you gonna do?"
Right.
I once went to a show in Darlington in the northeast here in England, that ran quite hot for about a month, and then just fell off the roof. So one time I was at this company running their last show at this place called the Dolphin Centre, and there were 13 people in the crowd, and me and my friends were two of them. And we get there, and obviously it's just a sea of empty chairs. For first match, guy comes out and he's like, "It's great to be here at this sold out, jam-packed arena. I know there's so many of you. Can you hear me over the noise that you guys are making?" Right? He just completely like he knew. It's like, why even hide it? But I think that can work for an English setting. Right. For America, it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do? I think I'm gonna see many times them making fun of the fact that there's not many people there.
Right.
The comedy and wrestling's weird. And if you don't believe me, the next match features Nikki Benz versus Jerry Lynn. No, not Nick Burke. Nikki Benz. I'd forgotten about this fucking thing. I don't think this gimmick ever worked for me when I was watching it back in the day, because the King of Comedy thing I love. I really do. The film, seeing a lot of people nowadays who don't realize that they are Rupert Pumpkin. It's fantastic. But in a wrestling setting, it never seemed to get the reaction that he was looking for in the shows I watched. He does his best, though. He comes out and goes, "What did one fat girl say to the other fat girl? Who cares? She's fat." And crowd are just like, like, what the fuck is this? Especially when his opponent is, a little known person, just completely unknown to the rest. Jerry Lynn is his opponent.
Right.
And God bless Jerry Lynn here. I've tied. Jerry Lynn wrestles this match in front of 150 people, and it was probably cold, even in March at this place. Like he's main eventing, like Anarchy Rules 99. He doesn't give a fuck that there's 150 people here. He puts the same amount of effort in. It's why I love Jerry Lynn as a fan.
Jerry's such a pro. Jerry's such a pro, man. I didn't really know him that well. Like, I only did a handful of shows with him here and there, but the fact that like you can observe that he wrestles like he's in the main event. I did a Jerry Lynn seminar once before like a World One show, and it was probably one of the coolest seminars I've ever done. Because he really dives into why things are important, and he shows that in his work. And if he was still working, he would still be the same way.
Absolutely. And yeah, even here with Nikki Benz, who's again, he's very tanned, Nikki Benz. But he did try doing the crisscross, and Lynn is working to his positives, the fact that he's not out in shape. So does the crisscross, and then he can't do it because he's tired. And then Lynn gets sick of running him around the ring and gets the mic and things. New York, like, Nikki Benz really sucks. And the crowd pops big for that. So, and I just put really great effort, and he ends it with a cradle pile driver. It's one of these matches where you go, you know what? Who I'd like to see wrestle? Jerry Lynn. What? Who's that? Nikki Benz. But it works so well. Nick Burke must have loved doing this gimmick because it was everywhere. It was more over than Nick Burke was, these companies. But what are you going to say?
I love Nick Burke. He remains one of my closest friends that I've ever had in wrestling. He's been on my podcast. He's been on Wrestle Rock more times than anyone's ever been on the show. I don't know. I don't remember why. I remember pitching Burke wrestling Jerry Lynn. I don't remember pitching him as Nikki Benz. Maybe that's something he really wanted to do. Maybe that was something Scott really wanted to see. I don't really recall, especially, it's been so long, but like, I always thought Burke was like underrated as hell. Like if you look back at his like Red Bull Nick Burke time, like when he like had matches with like his matches with Mama Luke, like his match, like all that stuff was so good. Like, remember when he was doing the submission stuff? Like he tapped out all the students. He tapped out me and Niles and Jude and like a whole bunch of us.
Josh Prohibition and guys like that. I remember,
Josh Prohibition and Insomniac.
I don't remember that. But...
No, he was just another one of the students.
Oh, right.
He came out and he like blew a spot. If you watch, what the show is called? I think the show is called Uncivilized. In that gauntlet match, in that gauntlet match, where it was like we all like did stuff with Nick Burke. The guy, this is my friend Carmen. He wrestled on that one show as Insomniac. I don't think he ever saw him again, but he did a spot where like he did a drop down and he wasn't supposed to do a drop down yet. It's such a botch. It's ridiculous. If you watch it, I'm pointing out a botch to the Botchamania guy.
Thank you. So what's a botch? Let me write that down.
but like you watch Nick Burke go, like, like Nick Burke was like, nah, come on, buddy, you're screwing it up here. Like you saw him, like I think I remember there being such frustration on his face when he was like, I think it might have been Live Again. So January 2003. Okay, right. If you watch that show back, it's probably on. I don't know how I can remember this, but I can't remember any of the other stuff. I can go, oh yeah, that was January 2003, but somehow I can't tell you like what I was doing backstage at his show. That was 13 years ago. But I can tell you what I was doing. I could tell you what I was doing the exact day and time because it had a feeling, you know what I mean? Like when that XPW war came in and they like forced us out of the building and we had to go to the 61st and Passyunk, it felt like it was like a rebellious move. And it felt like such a cool big deal to be a part of that movement. And
absolutely
everything felt mega. And like Rick Blade was back and like everything was on track to make CZW at that time become what ECW was just years prior. And during that show, while we were at 61st and Passyunk, which you'll see if Tatanka was on that show, I think.
Oh, that show, yes, I remember now.
So in that show, apparently there were some major money investors who wanted to see Tatanka on our show, but they were going to invest like millions. This is the rally that Zandig was giving us in the back. He was like, they're gonna put lots of money into the company. I had this meeting with these people. He's like, you get lots of scars in this business. Like in business, you get scarred, a lot of emotional scars. Look at the scars in my forehead, and like his hat up, like he's like scars like that. Whatever it was, not a very professional, white collar pitch. Well, let me adjust my tie here and just tell you about how many times I exchange blood with other folks.
Yeah. Where do you see the company in 3 years? It just goes,
but anyway,
yes.
The 61st and Passyunk.
Is that the Electric Factory, to interrupt?
What's up?
Is that the Electric Factory?
No. The Electric Factory was 3PW had run there, and that was a great venue for these wrestling shows. It looked great. It looked really good. I wish that we had run at the Electric Factory. And I think the original plans, like back 99 was for, or like 2000, CZW was supposed to run their first pay-per-view with like Terry Funk versus Onita. Yeah. And it was supposed to be at the Electric Factory. But I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, that was even before I was ever even a student. I was just going to the shows. But that was major. It felt like it was going to be big.
Yeah, again, just speaking as a fan, that time was so crazy. That's why there was like so many message boards and people investing, going on there like every day and going, what's happening with the XPW, Ring of Honor, to 3BW? Insanity. Yeah. Oh my God, Euthanasia have jumped to XPW. Justice Payne is back in season. Craziness.
Right.
Speaking of crazy moves to different companies, the new Irish drinking team are here. You know, Ian Knox, and he's replacing his old tag team partner, Chris Styles, who apparently stopped in 2003, called a cage match. But knowing what I've seen on this interview, probably did wrestle a lot other places than that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He was in
Ring of Honor. He was in Ring of Honor. The benchmark, Bill Daly. He was... Oh. He changed his name. He changed his look. He like got real jacked up, dude. What a cool dude. He worked at Eddie's company in WPW in Reading. But, yeah, he was the benchmark Bill Daly. He trained... with like Rip Rogers and OVW, right. And he like some of his students, guys that you might know now, or you might not know. I don't know if you do. You know Ricky Martinez, Picture Perfect Ricky Martinez. He trained him, Keikoa, the Hawaiian Warrior Keikoa, who was recently on Raw Underground.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, Bill Daly. I didn't know that he was still around. If I knew, he would have done it and not Andrew Test Martin.
You know, there was no other wrestlers available, so you had to get Andrew Test Martin against the makeshift team of Adam Flash and Monster Mac. And according to all the notes I've seen on the things I've seen about Wicked Hanuman, because there's so much literature about it. Danny Rose was supposed to team with them. Obviously, he's the Ratchies. I think I'm getting that pronounced right. But where was Danny Rose?
I don't know. He just didn't show up. I knew that he was supposed. It was, it was real funny. I ran into him at one of Rebel's shows. And I was like, "Hey man, am I going to see you in March at the arena?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, who's the money mark?" And he said that to me, and I was like, "Ew!" Like I love Danny Rose. Like I always loved Danny Rose, and I still. Like, if I see Danny Rose, I saw him, like, at a show, like, 2 years ago in Reading. Like, I wrestled at the Hamburg Fieldhouse a couple years ago, and Danny was there, and he brought his twins. He's got twin boys now. They got to be, like, 13 or something. Like, he was probably giving birth to his kid. He was probably with his wife. They were giving birth to his twins.
I knew what you meant.
That's why he didn't show up at the Wicked Hanuman show.
He was like, hurry up. I've got to be a Wicked Hanuman in an hour.
He's like, come on. I got to get my money mark payday. This guy's going to take a bath.
Anyway,
but yeah, I don't know why Steve Mack was. I think that also had something to do with Adam Flash. Adam Flash, I think there was some sort of like Adam Flash pitched putting him in the match. I don't know why. Was Adam Flash on the show?
Adam Flash, yeah, he's in the match.
He's in the match? Okay. Yeah, Adam Flash.
Monster Mac.
Okay, yeah, Adam Flash pitched for Steve to do it. I don't know why, but I like Monster Mac. Him and I have always got along. He's a really nice guy. I don't know why he was in the match. I never saw him before that show. I'd never met him before.
I've talked to him a whole bunch of times. I thought I had him on Facebook, but I thought he's changed his name or something, or he's unfriended me. But yeah, I've talked to him. I've nothing but cool things to say about him. He's just a nice dude. I would have loved to message him about this because he probably has a bunch of stories. But who cares? Test is here. And apparently he'd only just been released around February 2007. Because I know they had this weird thing where he'd lost every match. WWE had already decided that they were going to get rid of him. But so he lost every match on TV to build up to this match he had at Royal Rumble 07 with Lashley. where he lost to him again on pay-per-view. I think he maybe lost again, and then he was done. It was so weird. It's like, no, we're really firing you. And just so you make it sure, we're booking you for TV. And then fuck you, you're going to have a pay-per-view payday and lose again. I'm sure Tess was like, all right. And this is where his first non-WWE wrestling appearance is at Wicked Hanuman. I'll describe the match and we'll get to it, because I think you said before about Tess not being happy with this. Mac gets the biggest reaction of this match on the ECW chants towards Test. Knox manages to body drop Monster Mac, which is very impressive given his size. Mac takes him down while yelling, "This one's for you, Test," while he's on the apron. Test gets a load of juice and roid jokes from the commentators. Openly saying, "Wow, he looks really big and on steroids."
Where do you think he got the name Test?
I mean, it's true, but he doesn't have to say it. Monster Mac falls off the ropes very badly to the amusement of the crowd, and after double teaming Knox for 6 minutes, he makes the hot tag to the ECW legend as the crowd are now chanting EC-Dub, and Test's like, yeah, EC-Dub, EC-Dub. Test hits a clothesline, followed by the very impressive Test pump handle slam onto Mac. I think the fact he was able to do that's cool. Flash hits him with the chair, but Test no sells, and big boots Knox, followed by a TKO for the win. And I've put here 150 people in the crowd equals 150 seconds of work for Test. So
what's sad is, like, I don't know what he was paid. I really wonder what he, like. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. I don't know why he was there. I don't know how that arrangement happened. I have no idea. But dude, it was Test, on top of kind of being a dickhead to everybody there, was the biggest dickhead to Ian. Like, the guy he was teaming with, he was an asshole to him. And not to speak ill of the dead, but I'm not going to be polite just because he's dead. Fuck that guy.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I know some people have different things. Where from when it comes to, they're dead, better not say anything. No, I think you're allowed to say something. My opinion.
No, I mean,
because everybody dies at some point. I mean, it
right.
Sucks, but yeah, Test here at the arena and getting. Yeah, at least he got a pop for when he did his stuff, and he did a thing on Monster Mac. But yeah, just go on.
I was going to say
nothing. I'm saying nothing on note, so go on.
Ian hadn't been wrestling in a while. Ian had he's battling with some demons in himself. He was struggling for self-worth that he didn't have. Ian was a very damaged boy. He hadn't been working for a while. He hadn't been wrestling for a while. So I know he was going through some stuff. So he hadn't been working. And when he got in the back with Test was like, "Bro, you got a lot you got to work on." And Ian was like, "Nah." It was like it's like you're trying to pick apart this guy's match. He doesn't care to have another match. Like, it wasn't like, it was like he didn't expect the match to happen and he didn't expect to have another one. Like, it with Ian, it was very like it is what it is, you know? But I recently did this short film called Bruce. It was a 15-minute short film. Ian called me after it, and we talked for like 3 hours on the phone. And it was just like old times, catching up. Ian was like a brother to me during training. Like, we treated each other like brothers. It was really cool. It was really cool to catch back up with him. And I really hope that him and I can get together soon. But yes, Test, get out of here. I don't care.
I mean, you know what? I think it would be a weirder, more interesting story if, like, Test showed up and he was the nicest guy. He was so polite and down to earth. You know, it's like, right. He didn't really do much indie stuff before. Yeah, right. You know, well, whatever. We move on to the complete contrast in styles here as Loki is here. And he has issued an open challenge, and as Dennis Shock says, 3 people have answered it. Sabian and Ruckus come out with the Blackout theme to big pops from the crowd because Blackout were friggin' amazing. And definitely helped at least CZW and Chikara and every other company that were booked for during this period.
Right.
Also, Sanjay Dutt is here. He was also working TNA at the time, but this was during the period when they're allowed to work independent dates, obviously. And I said the match is already the best match on the card, just the entrances. And we talked a lot about stuff here. So I'll just say they blow the rest of the show away with the athleticism and beating the fuck out of each otherness. I'd say, obviously,
made that a verb?
Yes, yeah. If you put "ness" in the end, everything's a verb.
Right.
Yeah, they have a match expected of these 4 people, and the crowd are very welcome. I'm sure this is the match that people at Smartman Video would put. There's some other stuff on the card, but what a 4-way match! It
was a tape seller. Yeah, it was.
There we go, tape seller. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts or comments or issues with this?
It was amazing. It was a great match. I think it was a waste. Honestly, I think it's a waste to put that much talent in one match. You could spread them out. Could have gave somebody else a better match, or you know what I mean? Like, you just blew your nut on that one match. I mean, good for them for getting that match. But yeah, I love Ruckus. I could say that every day of the week. I love Ruckus. I like Sabian. Sanjay, I really like Sanjay a lot. Loki, I don't really have much to say about. Like, not because like I have bad things to say about him. I just don't really know him, and I've only ever been at shows with him twice.
Understandable.
But, I mean,
you're allowed to have no opinion, just like that scene in Pulp Fiction.
He when I did those WWE dates that I was talking to you about, we were in the ring together. Like, we were just like before the show started, we were just like chaining and stuff before the show. Like, he's nice, but I could see why people say he's not nice. I can understand it. I mean, if you watch his matches, you can tell like he doesn't take a lot of people's stuff and he stiffs the crap out of everybody. That's not the best. Not a whole lot of people are going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
But I don't really have much else to say about it.
That's absolutely fair enough, mate. Because why talk about the positives when we talk about as if the show wasn't weird enough with the name and everything else. The main event of this show sees Raven, who we all know and love, versus the original Leatherface, going by the Super Leather name, I believe, due to the fact that IWA Japan still has the copyright on the Leatherface one. I'm sure they were watching this in 2007 going, oi, that's our blokey. But yeah, Corporal Krishna himself is here returning. Krishna. Yeah, and this is the year later on in the year where W would accidentally report that he died and he had to go, I'm fucking not dead. And he's still alive as the time of this recording. Because apparently, if I remember the story correctly, there was a guy who told everybody that he was Leatherface. That he was that Leatherface died. And so when he died, it was reported, Leatherface dies. But it turns out it was just bullshit. I was one of the fake Leatherfaces. My
friend is doing the Leatherface gimmick in Japan right now.
Which company?
FMW. I don't know what the gimmick is.
Which version of FMW is it now? I forget. In 2020.
I don't know. But
it gets very convoluted because apparently in Japan you can just call something super in front of it and it becomes a different company. Like, oh no, this isn't WWE. This is Super WWE. It's all right, and it just works over there.
Right. But it's like the brass knuckles. I don't know. The brass knuckles championship. Like whatever that is. Like, I don't know how many FMWs there are. I don't really keep up with Japanese wrestling, but I know my friend Tony is doing that gimmick in Japan right now.
Oh, nice. Because I listened to, there's a great series of podcasts called The History of FMW that goes into detail about how it all started. Because, American drama's all right, and UK drama could be all right, but Japanese drama is just fucking out of this world.
Well,
it's all, it's all
politics behind pro wrestling in Japan are kind of weird and kind of sick, where it's like here you're buying all these tickets from me. Like they'll go to a business and be like, hey, we're the promotion. You're buying all these tickets you're going to sell all these tickets to everybody, but they'll pay the promotion like as if they'll sell the tickets, but then they won't sell the tickets. It's corrupt sort of mafioso sort of style.
Absolutely. So do you know, obviously you said, do you have any say in how the show got booked, or was it all your friend?
I guess I was pretty peripheral on a lot of the things.
Yeah.
I would just kind of give my thoughts, and then they got sort of ignored on some of it. But I knew that the posters, I don't know if the posters for this show are shown anywhere.
I'll have a look on Google.
But the Scott had commissioned a real comic book artist to design a poster for the show, and it's an amazing illustration, which is Super Leather and Raven.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look now. It's what independentwrestling.tv uses as the preview image.
Right. So,
that was commissioned for that. Oh, I wonder where that image came from then.
Yeah, so
it does look cool.
Scott had commissioned a comic book artist to make that picture, which is amazing. It's a really, really good picture. And I remember I actually paid to get, the only thing I paid for on the show was to get those flyers printed up. And we would it was cold, like you said, it was March, and we would flyer up all the cars at every place we could in Philly for a while. And you thought that would just draw a house, but it didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, so do you know why, of all people, Leatherface was here? Was there?
I have really no idea. I think that there in the creative mind was a void for that needed to be filled.
Right, I guess that makes sense.
For this area.
Yeah. What Eric Bischoff has said many times on his E3 weeks, where with WCW, he said we had to be either different or better than our competitors. We couldn't be the same as. Right. So, you're not booking the 2007 main event being CCW. Chris Hero versus Eddie Kingston, for example. You're trying to do something different, and you couldn't get this at Ring of Honor. So, so Leatherface, he's here, by God. Rick Feinberg has left the commentary booth to give this the main event feel that it deserves, I guess. Maybe he's gone to the liquor store, or maybe get a hoagie, I don't know. So we have Max Smack and Nick Mondo giving some thoughts. However, apparently they're way too far away from the microphone or weren't prepared to be doing commentary. So at some point you hear Rick asking questions, then you hear... So Mondo does a good job, though, I'll say, of explaining who Leatherface is and all of his accomplishments in Japan. So that's nice. But never mind that. Raven is an interesting guy, and I've seen in his post-TNA, post-ECW run, where he's at smaller indies, where just from a fan's perspective, it looks like he shows up and goes, right, I'm just going to do what the fuck I like because I'm Raven and no one's going to tell me what to do. And I'm just speculating here that he saw Nikki Benz backstage and was like, cool, yeah, you coming up with me and I'm going to do stuff with you.
Right. Yeah.
So Koba Krishna, who I believe... Again, from some memory for the FMW podcast, he got thrown out of Japan for either drugs or annoying the Yakuza and having to escape the country for fear of his life. I forget what it is. He's been back since and all that. And there's at least one dude in the crowd who has a giant old school Wing poster. He's front row in the front hard cam. And it's like, oh, cool. So there's that. But there's not a lot of heat apart from that one dude. It's just like, okay, it's Leatherface. So it's not like Leatherface is back because I don't think he was ever Leatherface in America. But obviously, a lot of people were tape traded and all that. But it's just like, oh, it's fucking Leatherface. Leatherface wrecks the timekeeper's table, scaring Chad Shaft. And I'm sure Frank Talent was used to that by now. Apparently, Chad Shaft did not know that was going to happen. Benz gets sick of. I skipped everything here. Jesus. They brawl. They give the crowd what they expect from this FAW legend. Leatherface throws a chair that comes dangerously close to hitting a fan, according to one report I read online. They brawl some bit. There's what looks like a toothbrush with nails on it and stuff like that. They do what they have to. Raven keeps on ordering Benz to set stuff up, like a table that gets used on the outside. Eventually, Benz gets sick of Raven abusing him and turns on him with a stunner, allowing Leatherface to hit a nail-assisted leg drop for the win. Crowd does not react at all. Leatherface seems pissed at this and tells Raven to throw him through the table in the corner. It bends, so then Raven launches Benz through it, and then Leatherface leaves the area while stroking his bat like a dick to the fans. And you can vaguely hear Frank Talent saying something to the commentary booth that I can make out. It's saying, "I was told there'd be no blood on the show." And it keeps on going on. Raven DDTs Benz after the match, then immediately gets on the microphone and goes, "I'm really sorry, Benz, that was an accident." Then picks him up again, apologizes, then gives him another. Raven insults the crowd for a bit, tells a long convoluted joke about a frog going to the bank, and goes to leave, and then goes, "Well, I'll do some more," tells some more jokes, and then eventually leaves and says, "Well, I'll do some signings after this." It's a very weird end. And then Sabato asks someone, I think it's Big Mac Smack, what they thought of the show, and they say something lines of, "Well, it was something," and that's how it goes up the air. Like I said, be different than or better than your competitors, and this was definitely different than. What did you think?
I knew that. Okay, so blood was supposed to not happen. So whatever you heard that right.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so on top of like that, it already was like things had already not been going well. Leatherface picked up a chair and like threw it into the audience, which automatically sent the hairs on everybody's back straight up. Like, oh, we're gonna be effed on this. You know what I mean? We're gonna wind up paying for this somehow. Like hopefully he didn't hurt anybody. Like so I think it was all pretty scary. But I was thinking, if you throw Nikki onto a table and it doesn't break, does it Nikki bends?
Hey. Nikki Ben's probably wanted to tell that joke immediately afterwards, but you have to sell to keep the business alive, I guess.
Yeah, but I knew that, like Raven, whatever he was doing on the mic, I remember it being ungood. I remember the match being not anything amazing, not a main event match. I think the idea behind it was Raven wasn't in any of those companies that were running at the arena, and no one had seen Leatherface against anyone in this area. So we were like, oh, okay, so definitely something that might draw people's attention, might draw tape traders' attention, might draw something like Raven was just in the WWE a couple of years before that, right?
Yeah, he left 03. It's got a team name.
So it was it was something, as Max Smack would say. It happened. It sure happened.
It definitely, like George Foreman beat Michael Moore. It happened.
The title of the show, The Beginning, was given to the show by Mike Burns. Scott never called it that. I never called it that. No one ever said that. Smart Mark Video was like, yep, that's what we're calling it. You should have called it The Beginning, Middle, and End. Right. Show. It starts, there's the middle, and then it's over.
Yeah. I mean, they should have just kept up the make it even more annoying, and people call it like Wicked Hanuman presents Genesis. Like, let's all annoy everybody.
Sega Genesis.
The other reason why I remember reading about it or thinking about it at the time and thinking, Wicked Hanuman, I'll Google this. And I'm actually talking to managed to find it because I forgot about this. I think a Hindu-based website talked about this with an absurdly named product named Wicked Hanuman, and then they copy-paste the description. And it's like, What is this? Okay, I'm not entirely clear what this is all about, mostly because my brain shuts off whenever I see the word wrestling. But given everything we've read so far, why on earth would you name a product after a sweetly loyal Vanara? Are the stars of the video inquisitive, short, furry South Indian humanoids? Very doubtful. It's also doubtful that anyone involved with this Charlie Foxtrot is either Hindu or knows anything about revered characters from the Ramayana. I think I'm getting that right. Some of you incorrectly think that I am all for mocking Hinduism, but this is not true. At best, I find this ridiculous, and at worst, I'm offended. Let me preemptively answer your question. No, I would not appreciate a Wicked John the Baptist DVD. I wouldn't advocate violence or otherwise behave in a way which threatens the possibility of getting my point across. But I think calmly expressed disagreement is more than called for in situations like this. I wish people could be sensitive and respectful of all regions. I think tolerance is a matter of courtesy versus a granola idea. But you're up in there. To that idea, I'm emailing less than smart Mark to let them know what I think. I know that within minutes, you're going to let me know what you think via the comments. And it's people going, what the fuck is this?
I would like to, since it's all a buzz, I'd like to publicly apologize for my involvement in. I did not mean to. I clearly did not make anything off of it. I made no money. I did not mean to exploit this. This Hanuman is not wicked in any way, and I want to say sorry about that.
I think when you upload this, you're going to put Wicked Hanuman in brackets. I'm really sorry. Hanuman is actually a nice person.
Oh, man.
Wicked John the Baptist, though. I mean, I would have fucking...
Yeah,
I mean, tickets for that.
I mean, I don't know the intentions of John the Baptist. Maybe he was wicked. Who knows?
So we have been speaking for about 2 hours, Corey.
Yeah.
Very opinionated. I've lots to say, which is fantastic for a podcast, but don't want to take up too much of your time. What were you about to say? Sorry, I've just seen your hand gestures.
Oh, I was going to say, let's at this point, hot dog and handshake. I'll send you home after this. I would just want to say, if you could, if I could say, hypothetically, I've gifted you this show, and it's your show now. You're the host. Go ahead and ask me anything you'd like to ask me. And then one more thing, and then hot dog and a handshake, and you can roll off into the sunset.
Deal. That's a good one. I don't know. You've answered so many questions I had on my little list here, so I'll just make up something off the top of my head.
Okay.
What did you learn from this show? If you were going to... I'll say this in a better way. If you were going to do a show now, the year of our Lord 2020, what did this show teach you? If anything.
I would say probably really, really be careful about who you let have power on things and who you like, and communication. Everybody needs to know everything that they need to know. People don't need to know more than they need to know or less than they need to know. You need to find out the exact amount of things that people need to know and make sure it's communicated to them. So, communication, probably. Don't overpromise anything. Never overpromise anything. And also, if you see a lot of people are doing something over here, go do something over here. Maybe. With anything. Don't be like everybody else. Be something different. Not only be something different over there, be somewhere different away from over there. Because like one town, one building, one territory can only take so much wrestling. I mean, this isn't a wrestling podcast, I must say. If you've listened to any other episodes, which I know you said you didn't, I never talk about wrestling this much. This is a completely special occasion, very special edition of Evolving with Corey Castle. I definitely wanted us to like collaborate in some way, because I know I wanted you to come on the wrestling podcast with me and Rick Feinberg on Wrestle Rock. But I know we couldn't get it. We couldn't get it together. Something happened, but either way, I'm super glad we did this, and I had a lot of fun, and I hope we can do some more of this some other time that's not generally focused on one thing, because I'd like to kind of like talk about you and your life and things like that, and jump into your life lessons.
That sounds very nice, Corey. I'll put that in mind. I like to listen to dumb stuff when I'm doing other things. Dumb stuff, yeah, that's very flattering, isn't it? But you know what?
Put on your dumbass podcast.
Yeah,
or pop on one of your dumbass episodes of your dumbass podcast.
Yeah, but you know, we go with no expectations and be like, "Wow, Corey isn't dumb. This is actually really interesting." You know. You go, yeah. My fucking podcast's so amazing. You know, your dick will grow longer just listening to it. I'm like, wow, great, Corey. But you have expectations that low. If you start in the basement, you can only go to the first floor, you know?
But I have to say, another thing I've learned through reflection is a tremendous deal of humility. You gotta mess up sometimes so you can learn how to react when things go badly. You learn things about yourself when you mess up. When you do bad, you learn how to be better. And I think that's something I learned through this. This was a huge experience because I had my expectations. With everything, you got to manage your expectations. I just said this on the last episode of the podcast. You got to redefine what your idea of the next level is. Because if you're not fit to be on that next level, reevaluate what your actual next level is. So if I go, oh, why doesn't anyone ever call me to do this? But then if someone does call me to do it and I'm bad at it, I can't bitch that no one's calling me. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta change things about me and like take things less personally. Because I for sure wasn't ready for somebody to be like, dude, you suck. You suck. I wasn't ready for someone to be like, hey, do you think you're actually even ready for this? Because I for sure wasn't. And like I said, I was only 5 years into the whole Corey Castle thing, and I probably should have changed my name after that embarrassing performance. But
well, I think we could all learn a lot from that. You're right. I like to point out I don't have a raging hard-on for mistakes. The fun, because that is what life is like. That's what, like, beg your pardon, I'm very tired. It's fucking 11:30 my time. It's what life is about. You're supposed to make mistakes. It's about you make mistakes, you learn from them. Like the great Rocky quote, it's not about how many times you win, it's about how many times you get knocked down and get back up again. So
yeah, right.
He said it better than me, but that's why he's got fucking Academy Awards. And you're right. Wicked Hanuman was not a success, but it was fantastically not a success, and we're still talking about it.
It's the room. At least it's like
everybody,
the room.
Right, exactly. Everybody I spoke to, RSP, Chad Shaft, MLJ, they all went, "Oh, Wicked Hanuman, fucking great." You know, there is something intrinsically lovely about when a wrestling show, especially, is the ultimate embodiment of people trying, people wanting to be better than they are. For one, the rest of the week, they're fucking John Smith. They're working in a garage. They're getting shit from people. That for maybe an hour or so, maybe even shorter than that, they'll get to be, you know, big dick mischief on a show with lots of screaming fans. So when there's so much pressure on it being the end all be all, Wicked Hanuman mania, and it doesn't come off, it's this shared sense of failure that's bringing people together. I think that could be quite as beautiful as things going well.
I mean, but if I look back on it now, I go like, oh man, I forgot that some of those people were there. And some of those people involved with it, still some of the people that I love the most. And I mean, honestly, like Nate Hatred, he taught me a lot about my life. I think Nate Hatred, being on that show, I have to always give tribute to Nate all the time. I have to, you know, same with like, it's hard to think of like a show. So I blocked that out of my memory for so long that I forgot that like Nick Burke was in it, and Eddie Valentine and John Dahmer and like all and Danny, like Danny Havoc and all these names, and like I totally forgot about how much those people were all kind of dear to me. And I felt like perhaps I damaged my reputation. And whoops, I didn't really have one yet. Anyway, my reputation more stands with who I am now and what I do with the time I've got left. So that's why I call the show Evolving, because I can always get better. I always strive to be a better version of who I am.
Fantastic. I think you've got the money line there. You got the hot dog and the handshake line. And I'm not lying. I'm very tired.
Yes. Yeah, dude,
so
it's late for you. You're in a different country. What? Anytime you want to hang out, or next, I mean, if you want to get back on here, or if you come back to the States and want to hang, absolutely hit me up. This has been a pleasure. I'm super glad I got to feel like I was important or something for some reason. I appreciate it.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, pal. I'll, do what you like with this. Thinking about it, I now work for a company called WrestleJoy, who do talk about like positive bits, but I might try and use bits of this and I'll realize, wait, I'm actually doing networking now. DMing wrestlers like, what do you remember about this show? I might put something towards them and submit it with obviously you as a source and everything like that.
Right.
I'll put that in the pipeline where I've got other stuff to be doing, but I'll let you know how that goes, Corey. But until then, pleasure speaking with you finally after all these years and months of me. You sending me very polite messages. Again, I hope that was intended as rude. Sometimes there's just a lot going on and I'm like, you know what? Fuck wrestling for a bit.
I have to say, I send a lot of DMs to a lot of people, and I get blown off a lot. So I'm not used to getting my feelings hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like I get anybody who blows me off. I'm like, I've been blown off by bigger. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't take it personally. I love it. I love what you do. I think Botchamania is great. And we were making a documentary. Me and my brother-in-law were making a documentary. It had a bunch of names in it, and in every one of the documentary interviews, we asked them what they thought about Botchamania. Oh. But the documentary, unfortunately, got shelved. You might not ever see it, but I've been giving you high praise for probably the entire time you've been doing this. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate that. Like you found a niche for yourself, and you found an audience. You found like where your value is. And I really appreciate your value.
Thank you, Corey. I'm glad that you found your value as well with your the podcast, the things you do, and the outlook you have. And all I have to say to you is namaste.
Appreciate it. Be fun. Have safe. Oh, wait. Also, I want to make sure I have to say, if this is the first time you're checking out Evolving with Corey Castle, and this is the first episode, the episode is 206. Go back and check out the other 205 episodes of the show. Yeah. Maybe hit subscribe. You'll get a new episode every Monday on iTunes and Spotify. And, maybe leave a comment in the YouTube or follow the YouTube page. Tell your friends about it. This might be a fun, interesting interview for you. If you call it an interview, I don't know. I call it a hang sesh. But if this is fun for you, it's fun for me. Yeah. Be fun. Have safe. Go ahead, Matthew.
And what's the Twitter? Where can we find this?
On Twitter, you're Maffew.
No. You unplug it. Oh, me. That was me doing the dumb thing. And what's the Twitter for the Corey Castle?
Oh, check me out on Twitter at Corey Castle, CoryKastle, and on everything else at Corey Castle. And dude, honestly, I have to say this because I always say it to everybody, but if you feel like you need a friend and you feel like you have no resources, you need some judgment-free conversation, absolutely let me be that resource for you. I'm not a hard person to get a hold of. I can answer any of your questions. I can't say I'm going to give you the right answers, but I will give you my answers. And, I think I have a level of life experience and some expertise in pro wrestling.
Fantastic. Corey, it's been a pleasure. I'm going now. I'm going to literally fall asleep on my desk.
All right. Be fun. Have safe.
Be fun. Have safe.
All right. Take care, brother.
Take care, man.